Do you need a miracle? In this video, I'm going to show you the pathway to the miraculous because the scriptures tell us that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, which means that if Jesus performed miracles when he walked on the earth, then he still performs miracles today. If he healed the sick when he walked on the earth, then he still heals the sick today. If he transformed lives when he walked the earth, then he still transforms lives today. And in this video, we're going to look at one of Jesus's miracles because every miracle is a microcosm. They don't just reveal what God did past tense, but they reveal what he wants to do in your life in the present tense. And what he's done before, he'll do again. And in John chapter 2, Jesus is at a wedding and they run out of wine. And so running out of wine may not seem like a big deal. It may seem like a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things. But in this culture, they took hospitality very seriously, and wedding parties would last for days. So running out of wine in the middle of your wedding would have been very embarrassing. But still, this wasn't a life or death situation. And that's what I love about this story. And that's what I love about Jesus. I love that his first miracle was not saving someone's life. It was helping somebody save face. And it just reveals how much God cares about the smallest details of our lives. See, God is great, not because nothing is too big. God is great because nothing is too small. If it matters to you, it matters to God. He cares about the small things in our lives. And that really encourages me because the things that I worry about, the things that I get stressed over, they're typically not life or death issues. And so the temptation is to not take those things to God, to not pray about those things because I think God only cares about really big things or really important things. And what I'm worried about is something small. But the scriptures encourage us to bring all of our cares and concerns to God. 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Cast all your worries upon him because he cares for you." So if something matters to you, it matters to God because he cares for you. He wants you to go to him with the daily concerns of your life. There is no problem too big or too small for you to take to God in prayer. In fact, the first step to receiving a miracle is having a problem that requires a miracle. The miracle in John chapter 2 starts with a problem. This couple ran out of wine at their wedding. And so Jesus can work miracles in your life, but the first thing you need is a problem that requires a miracle. See, everyone wants a miracle, but no one wants to be in a situation that requires a miracle. But you can't have one without the other. The greater the problem, the greater the potential miracle. See, problems are nothing more than opportunities for God to reveal his glory. You should view every problem in your life as an opportunity for God to reveal his glory. So the first thing you need in order to experience a miracle is a problem. The second thing you need to do is take that problem to Jesus. And this is what happened in John chapter 2. This couple runs out of wine at their wedding, and Jesus' mother takes the problem to Jesus and says, "Hey, they're out of wine." And notice, she brought the problem to Jesus, but she didn't tell him what he needed to do. She simply presented the problem to him and said, "They're out of wine. This is your problem now." See, prayer isn't about saying the right words. Like, miracles don't depend on your ability to articulate the solution to God. You don't need to know what to say. You just need to know where to turn. Whenever you take your problems to Jesus, you open the door for God to perform a miracle. The problem is that when most of us have a problem, our first reaction isn't to bring it to Jesus. Instead, we try and handle it ourselves. We have a God who invites us to cast all of our cares upon him, but instead, we try to handle the situation ourselves. And I think one of the main reasons why we don't take our problems to God is because of past disappointments. I mean, maybe you prayed for something and it didn't happen, right? You were believing God for a miracle and it didn't happen. And that disappointment caused you to stop taking your problems to God. Whenever we experience disappointments, it's easy for us to kind of, pull back on the reins of our faith because we don't want to feel the sting of disappointment again. And I can't explain why some prayers are answered while others aren't, or why some miracles happen and others don't. But I know it's a mistake to allow your disappointments to keep you from believing God for the miraculous. The baseball player with the highest batting average of all time is Ty Cobb. I mean, his batting average is .366, which means that he struck out more than 60% of the time he went up to bat. Now imagine if he would have said, it's just not worth it. I'm not even going to try because I strike out more times than not. That'd be ridiculous, right? He is the best hitter in the history of baseball. Yet that is exactly how many people approach prayer. They let a few strikeouts keep them from swinging for the fences. And trust me, my prayer batting average is no better than anyone else's. I swing and miss all the time. But if you want to experience the miraculous, you have to come to terms with the fact that the who, what, when, where, and how aren't up to you. You cannot answer your own prayers, but if you fail to ask God, He cannot answer them either. God won't answer 100% of the prayers you don't pray. So if you assume the answer is no, you don't even give God a chance to say yes. But when you take your problems to Jesus, it opens the door to the miraculous. So you have a problem, you take that problem to Jesus, and then you need to do what He says. Right? In our story in John chapter 2, his mother told the servants, do whatever He tells you to do. And this miracle happened because they did exactly what Jesus said. They took 6 stone water jars and filled them up with water. Like Jesus didn't wave His hand over empty pots and poof, there was wine. Instead, He involved the servants and they did what He told them to do, and the end result was a miracle. See, only God can perform miracles, but you'll notice that almost every miracle has a human element, right? When Israel tried to cross the Jordan River, the priest had to step into the water before God parted the waters. Naaman had to dunk himself in the Jordan River 7 times before he was miraculously healed. See, some miracles take a single step of faith, while others require multiple attempts. But you've got to do the natural before God will do the supernatural. And this is how God performs miracles in our lives. He involves us in the process. And I love this because we get to be a part of the miracle, but it also means that in order for a miracle to happen, we have to do what He says. Now that sounds easy enough, but oftentimes what Jesus tells us to do doesn't make sense, right? We're out of wine and you want us to fill up water pots? Like how is that going to help? We're not out of water, we're out of wine, right? What Jesus told them to do didn't make sense, right? And sometimes what God tells us to do, it doesn't make sense. And we don't like doing things that don't make sense. I heard a story about this guy who lived in Kentucky, and his name was Tom. And Tom was an egg rancher. And so he had chickens and he supplied all the local grocery stores with eggs. And one day before he went to church, he felt like God told him to take some eggs to church. And so he got in the car to head to church, and he's like, oh yeah, I forgot my eggs. And he runs back into the house and grabs, a dozen eggs. And his wife is looking at him like he's crazy. He's like, God told me that I'm supposed to bring eggs to church today. And so he brings the eggs to church, and, as he gets out of his car, this woman pulls up next to him in the parking lot. And Tom feels like he's supposed to give the eggs to this woman. And so this woman is getting out of her car, and Tom walks up and says, God told me to give you these eggs. And he handed her a dozen eggs. And so this woman just breaks down, tears streaming from her eyes. She's crying, and Tom's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And the woman said, I'm a teacher at the school around the corner, and I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, and all your students are always talking about God, and I came here to tell you that God isn't real. And she said that just before she left her house, she said, God, if you're real, somebody better hand me a dozen eggs. See, it doesn't make sense when God tells you to take a dozen eggs to church and give them to a random stranger. But when you do what Jesus says, miracles happen. And so if you want to experience the miraculous, you need to do what Jesus tells you to do, regardless of whether or not you think it makes sense. So if you need a miracle, take your problem to Jesus and do whatever He tells you to do. And when you do what He tells you to do, you'll find yourself in the middle of a miracle. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor, smash that like button, share it with a friend, and if you haven't already yet, subscribe to this channel. And if you're believing God for a miracle, would you let me know in the comment section below, because I want to pray over every single comment, over every single person who is believing for a miracle. I want to bring my faith together with yours and believe God to do something supernatural in your life. Thanks for watching, and remember, if it's not good, God's not done.